This is the brand new Tesla Model 3 Performance, a whopping 510 brake horsepower, a 2.9 to 60 car. We do have to talk about the news when you're discussing Tesla these days, and that's just a fact of life. I'm all for free speech, which goes both ways, so you might be a massive musketeer and think nothing to see here, or equally you're on the other side and you just can't quite believe what's happening. His personal wealth has dropped by 120 billion since December. Now, there's no doubt share prices go up and down. Sales of Tesla in Germany in February, 76% down. Some of that can be attributed to the new Model Y starting production, the old one ceasing production, but they said that the Gigafactory in Berlin, for example, did all Model Ys till Friday and new Model Ys on a Monday after the weekend. So what's going on there? In lots of companies, with the news that's happened, the person would just quietly disappear. I just don't think that's going to happen this time. And maybe you don't think that is what should happen, but that would normally be what happens in a normal company. So if you own a Tesla, how do you feel about life driving one now? Or do you agree that maybe you shouldn't be judging people on whatever car they decide they want to buy? I do want to make this video about the Model 3 Performance and essentially how Tesla make really good electric cars. If you're looking for something on the front of the Model 3 Performance to identify the fact that it is the more potent dual wheel performance version of the car, there's nothing really obvious, to be honest with you. Slightly different lip lower down of the car, but there's no badges. It's just kept simple and streamlined, which is kind of the name of the game with this company. If you go around the side, things get a little bit more obvious. These are called Warp alloys. They're 20-inch, huge, unmissable, red Tesla logos, calipers behind them, sitting on some P0s, which will stop from 70 miles an hour in less than 170 feet if you have the stock tires on the car. And the discs are massive. So that is one obvious sign that you're in a performance. Apart from that, there's nothing on the side either. I'm not going to labour the point too much. You get it. You swipe up now for your gear changes like this. You swipe down to go in reverse. You hit tap to park. It can auto sense which direction you want to go. Some people mightn't be too much of a fan of that. You may not have seen it, but I love the way they have the speed sign just there and you just tap it and the beeps go off. But it still does beep a lot for changes of speed direction. There's a driver fatigue warning. You can turn that bit off. It seems to reset all the time, and maybe because I'm not in a profile where it goes out of dark mode. The sound settings are changed. Great overview camera, but yeah, everything is in here. The indicators, a bit more time to get used to this time. Still not sure. I do like that the camera view button is on the shortcut on the steering wheel. That is very handy. The wipers still a bit hit and miss. Sometimes they come on when there's no rain at all, and when it is actually raining, the auto section is not amazing. You get these much more bolstered seats in the performance version now, which is good. Dual wireless charging plate, and everything feels soft, squishy enough. It's all right. It's just very, very simple and clean in here. Not everybody's going to be a fan. Oh, and there's no CarPlay still. There's no real obvious signs that this is the Model 3 Performance at the back of the car. There's the carbon fibre lip spoiler and this badge, which is not plaid. But some people look at it and go, is this plaid? It's kind of got a Union UK flag. Anyway, look, there's enough controversy going on here. Let's not get into this. I like the light, although they are filling up with condensation after washing the car yesterday, and you've kind of got this possibly unnecessary but probably useful for downforce and aero hanging off the lower part of the car. And this all looks the same, very sleek. The opening of the boot, they get like 594 litres into this. Now, Tesla kind of make weird boot size figures. In the Model Y, it's up to the roof that they're basing it on. This is a large well down here that you can stick things into. I wish you could hold this up, because you've got to tilt the bottom of it like this to try and actually get it to hold up. There's little inserts on either side, but 594 litres is the official figure, and you can drop the seats, but obviously this thing just gets in the way of loading things into the car. Electric tailgate comes as standard. There's good space back here. You're probably well aware of this screen now that has arrived in the new facelift version of the car. You can play the games, you can control your own climate, you can pair Bluetooth speakers to it. There's the flat floor, the armrest. There's decent headroom, depending on how tall you are. If you're over 6 foot, that's going to get close. And it's obviously a glass roof. So you don't want to be whacking your head off that. You can't really slouch down either to give yourself a bit more over the headroom either. Stuff feels good though, back here. I like it. There's absolutely no getting away from the fact that this is a supercar speed, quick car. From a standstill, it's insane. Depending on what source you believe, it's 2.8, 2.9, 3.1 to 60. And it weighs about 1900 kilos. So by electric vehicles car standards, it is a little bit lighter than norm, shall we say. Depends what you're comparing it to, of course. Driving it all over the place this week, getting about 18 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Tesla do it in the hundreds of watt hours per kilometer, but you can work it out that way. And so there's a couple of different modes. First of all, for driving, so you have light, standard, and heavy steering. I think standard is kind of the sweet spot. And acceleration, chill, standard, and insane. I don't think I've driven a car yet that pushes you into the back of your seat more than this. It's like, whoa, like everything in your head feels like it's being squished. The G-force is incredibly powerful. And the way this car will go into a corner at silly speeds, I mean, the handling, the brakes are great as well. You never feel you're wanting for the feeling of a bite that sometimes you just don't get in electric cars. That's always there. The steering is so direct. The handling has a sports car feel to it. It has all those things. We have seen this before, though, in some of the other Tesla models, and especially in the performance. I actually wish I kind of sat a little bit lower. I mean, you kind of feel weirdly high. That acceleration though, oh my god, it's just, the power delivery is brutal in a good way. Max charging speed 250 kilowatt DC, you've got 11 on board, 500 kilos towing capacity. It's down 500 kilos on the standard car. And again, with feeling. It is just, and the fact that there's no real noise to go with it is even more unnerving. It's just like, what is going on here? Your whole body is glued to the seat. Your face feels uncomfortable. It is stupendously quick. Have they got the suspension all right? Well, you can't have a car that goes this fast, handles this well, and for it not to have a firmer setup. That's just what happens. The BMW M5 is a far more comfortable car as an all-rounder. However, you know, it's twice the price. So in the one sense, you can kind of compare it because of the acceleration, but then there's many points you can't. Now, the ride and handling, on a sports setting now, you can flip it to standard. It's slightly less firm. There's really not a huge amount in it. Oh, Jesus. Like, the straight line is like nothing I've ever experienced. As long as you can drive this thing slowly, you don't have to drive like a hooligan all the time. And it kind of blends in. It doesn't really look like different to any other Model 3 that you'll see plenty of on the road. It's a 78.1 NMC battery, not LFP, which some Model 3s have. They say it's good for a range of over 500 kilometers. I mean, if you're going to drive it with the performance capabilities, that's not going to happen. I think you'll maybe see 400 if you take it easy, but it's just too tempting not to use that power when conditions allow, even if it's just for a really safe overtaking maneuver, whatever it is. It's just so quick. The steering incredibly sharp. You know, it has that roadster steering feel to it. The other thing that needs to be commended is just how good this overview is. Like, you've sides, obviously this is used with Sentry mode as well, where you have your own dash cam, and if someone hits off the car, that's all recorded. I do think you get quite used to that swipe thing. It's not really an issue. Tesla app is very handy. You just pair that up. Don't need to use keys anymore. You can put speed limits on it if you're letting younger people drive this car, although it's quite a responsibility, in my opinion, to give the virtual key of this car to someone who doesn't really know. too much about driving. Bit annoying that you've got to use just the inbuilt Spotify. Now, it's not the only option you have. You've got Tidal, you've got TuneIn. Some people do complain that they just can't use CarPlay. Now, the nav in this thing is excellent. So you just type in your navigation and it'll give you a state of charge when you get there. It's got traffic updates. The upgraded system on this, the sub and all the rest of the bass is class, really, really loud. Open the glove box. That opens, but then you've got to manually close it. That doesn't make sense. So I suppose it delivers on everything that it should. Now it's beeping at me now because I think because I'm in a school zone. I'm not sure, but yeah, it does like to beep. It's nothing special compared to some of the other European brands and beyond, where we've everything beeping at you this day for you looking out the window. Tire noise, wind noise, it's fine. And the other thing is, if you have kids, they'll love this car because they're just constantly entertained in it, whether it's the seat of the pants feeling or the games front and back. They can control the volume and in the rear. There's all that stuff as well. Euro for Euro, there's not a huge amount else out there that will do this kind of brake horsepower, this sort of acceleration for that money. But you're not using it all the time, and that's where I suppose my summary is going to go. You can look at a whole heap of options now that weren't there when the last Model 3 Performance came out. And also, there's the small issue of a used Porsche Taycan, and you might prefer one of them. Of course, the other dilemma if you're buying a Model 3 Performance is that you could step it back a few years and, okay, it needs a wash, but buy yourself a used Taycan. And for some people, that's just the nicer alternative. We will do a video review of this car when it's had a wash soon on the channel. There's no doubt that this Model 3 Performance is a little bit better built than the last one. A little bit nicer inside. It's all little incremental changes. There's no huge transformation from the last one, which was still a great car to drive, really fast in a straight line. I think this is spring-wise, suspension-wise, set up a little bit better. It's not overly firm, but it's not exactly comfortable either. And I'm very curious to drive the new Model Y to see the suspension changes that they've made to that car, because that started with the tyre, went into bushings, it went right across from literally the ground up into making that car drive better. This is definitely a little bit better than the last one. At 66, 67, if you add the paint and stuff like that, it gets expensive, and compared to a couple of years ago when this was kind of out there on its own in terms of wow performance, there's a lot of other stuff in the market now. You've got BYD with their Seal, which is very, very impressive also, and it doesn't cost you quite as much as this. So it'll be interesting to see. You wouldn't really be a Tesla fan to now go for the Model 3 Performance, at least. Still great value in the standard rear-wheel drive car. Do, however, let me know what you think. Get involved in the debate about the whole brand in the comments down below. Is there no such thing as bad publicity? That's what the comment section is for. And you might consider subscribing to the channel. We're that close to 50,000 subs, so I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.